Hi there, Karen Flaherty here from Living by Human Design. Hope you're doing well today. Today we're going to be talking about the gate 47, which is called the mindset. Okay, so we've got the Sun in gate 47, which starts this evening, September 9th, Friday, and it goes until September 14th in the morning. We've got the Earth in gate 22, which is charm and grace, and we've got the 47 up here coming off the top of the ajna, and the 22 here coming off the top of the solar plexus. And by Saturday morning, we've already got this definition in the 35 to 36 channel, which is called transitoriness. And this is going to be defining the basically in the transits all week. And so we're all going to have the throat defined here, connected to a motor, the solar plexus, which will make us feel a little emotional sometimes. But basically, this creates the feeling as if we're all manifestors. So it's going to be an interesting week because everybody's going to feel as if they have both the voice energy and the emotional energy, which can play out in a number of different ways, but they're going to feel like they can speak. And so it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. There's, probably a number of conferences and things going on this week in all, parts of the world where people are going to feel a little more proactive or have at least the feeling that they can speak more. And just to mention, there are a number of planets retrograde, including Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. So all the outer planets, basically everything from here down is in retrograde, and Mercury gets added Saturday on the 10th. So depending on how you react with Mercury, some people like it, some people don't. I happen to be born in Mercury retrograde, so is my husband. So for us, it's usually actually a pretty good period. I'll probably get a lot done. Other people need to, kind of retrench, regroup, reintegrate, all the re's, right? And figure out how to get through it without signing any contracts or making any big decisions. So, and it'll go through, the 10th, probably through the end of the month. So with this Sun in gate 47, it's called mindset or epiphany. It's part of the abstract channel, and it's all about basically abstract thoughts. So abstract thoughts are coming in through the 64, which was actually in last week, and they come through the 47, which is mindset or the epiphany, and then you have an epiphany basically about the download that you've gotten through the confusion. It is called depression or realization in the original I Ching. It's described as a restrictive and adverse state as a result of internal weakness or external strength or both. And the whole idea here with the mindset, or at least, the way I've been taught, I don't actually have this energy in my chart consistently, but, or as something that's defined, but the people who do tell me that really it's like an on-off switch. They're either in a good mood, and I shouldn't even use the word mood. They're either in a positive mood or negative mood, right? It goes back and forth, positive to negative, optimistic, pessimistic, however you want to describe it. That's the kind of energy it is, but it's in the mind, right? It's not of the energy center. It's not about the solar plexus. So while people this week might be feeling like they're a little moody, but with this up and down wave, mindset is either or. It's like the root center. It's either on or it's not. It's just a switch, right? Which is a lot different than the wave of the emotional energy. So just to make that distinction, because some people confuse the two, especially if somebody has let's say I was talking to somebody at a conference and he had the 47 in his conscious sun, and he was also emotional, and he was a manifester. So he would, we had, an hour-long discussion about the difference between the two. And he could see that there was a difference between the two by the time we finished talking. In the incarnation crosses this week, it's the cross of rulership, realizations or oppression, and informing. And then this gate 22, which is called charm and grace, comes off the solar plexus. It's grace or openness in the original I Ching, because it's really someone who wants to talk, someone who's open, somebody who's really almost wanting to talk when they're in a good mood, let's say. So it's a quality of behavior best suited in handling mundane and trivial situations. I like to describe this gate as one that's the kind of person who can go to a very, let's say, mundane cocktail party, right? It's a fundraiser or something like that, work the room with the charm and grace and collect all the checks. It's that kind of energy. And so it's very, very much someone who can engage with other people and create a rapport with them, and then, do whatever their intention is to do. Then in the gene keys, dishonor is the shadow, graciousness is the gift, and grace is the CD. So here in the gene keys, we've got a graphic that says transmutation is what drives human beings to keep going beyond their wildest dreams. And this, as Richard describes it, this gate, the mindset or epiphany, is in the shadow, he calls it oppression. In the gift, it's transmutation. And in the CD, it's transfiguration. And this transfiguration he describes as literally from the Bible, the New Testament. Catholic or Christian faiths, they believe in the crucifixion and the, rising. And they describe that as transfiguration. It's like he was, Jesus Christ was on the cross and dying, and then he was transfigured when he rose from the dead, right? So it's that kind of that kind of legend or story is what this idea is about. And the oppression comes from the mindset, when you can be, really negative versus positive. And so it can go back and forth. But the transmutation is what drives us to get to our dreams, right? So it really has quite a bit in it, even though I struggle with this gate a bit. But the idea here, as Richard said, the basis of this whole gate is that evil is manifested in the world as our fears. And so if we didn't have fears, if we didn't have the negative mindset that's in this gate, for example, we wouldn't have the fears manifesting, or the evil manifesting in the world that we fear, which is a pretty interesting take on it, right? I think probably a lot of people think that evil exists no matter what. He's saying that the evil we see is a result of the fears that we create in our mind. And so if you think about it that way, then there wouldn't be evil if we all could, or at least most of the time, right, have the on switch for positive thinking, optimistic thinking, as opposed to negative thinking and negative fears, right? We all have these fears built in. It's part of our karma, or kind of what we come in with or what we experience. And if we can, work through that and really accept the shadow, he says, we can then move past fears. So he said the very thing that terrifies you the most is your route to a higher revolution. So accepting the shadow, accepting the fears, accepting them for what they are, and then moving into the next transmutation of what those mean for us. The whole of our planet, he also says, humanity, all the creatures, and Earth itself will eventually be transfigured. So the idea is that eventually we will all be transfigured, but he does admit in the book that it will probably take hundreds of years, and we won't probably see it, at least not in this incarnation. We got a bunch of people who had birthdays this week, including Agatha Christie. We'll be talking about Amy Winehouse in a moment, Tyler Perry, Otis Redding, Colette Colbert, Tolstoy, Colin Firth, Arnold Palmer, Jesse Owens, Hugh Grant. I'm trying to, I was trying to see if there's through these, but I think with the Gate 47, it's a little harder. Although they would also have the 22, which would be the Charm and Grace. And, if they had that entire channel, they would be either manifesting generators or manifestors and have that voice available to them, which I think they could see a number of these do. And in fact, Arnold Palmer, I was looking at his chart, and he was a manifester, and he did have that 1222 defined in his chart. And he was very charming and graceful when he wanted to be. He happened to be a client of mine when I was at IMG. So today we're going to talk about Amy Winehouse for a few minutes. She was born September 14th, 1983. She died when she was 27 years old. And she was born in London, England. Actually lived there most of the time, most of her life. She was a manifesting generator with the 5-1 profile and the left angle cross of informing. As you probably know, she was an English singer and songwriter, and with a beautiful voice. It was a contralto voice, which was just amazing to listen to. I didn't even know many of her songs, but or follow her much, but what I have heard was really beautiful, and she did it in a number of genres, including rhythm and blues, soul, jazz, and what they called blue-eyed soul. And so I'll say the interesting thing is that in her chart, and by the way, I've been there are a number of people who died at 27 years old. They actually have a name for it. It's called the Forever 27 Club. That they, people like Janis Joplin, Jim Morrison from the Doors, Jimi Hendrix, a number of people, like Kurt Cobain, even in the 90s. A lot of people died at 27 years old, usually just before their Saturn return, which is usually between 28 and 32. So these were basically still young, very young people who hadn't, really reached what in human design we think of as adulthood when they've had their Uranus return. So, what I can say from her chart is it's hard to see, why things exacerbated the way they did. So from her chart, what I can see is that she was very much an individual. She had 5 centers open, the head and the ajna here, plus the will center, the spleen, and the root center. So a lot of pressure here, taking in a lot of fears from other people, taking in a lot of will from other people. But she and the open head and ajna, constantly busy up there and basically carrying what people thought, especially in conjunction with the will center, because that really has a problem. The open will center definitely has a problem with self-esteem. And then the rest of her chart, you look at it and it's all individual. Every channel she has is individual. She doesn't have many. She just has that 1222, which does make her the manifesting generator here, but also she's the archetypical manifesting generator with the 3420, and it even goes into the 10. So she had it, but they were all individual. And so she was very much an individual. You could tell by the way she dressed, by the way she looked. She did kind of take on the look of the 60s girl bands with her beehive hair and short skirts, but she was very much an individual, and she created some gorgeous songs and some really, well-regarded. She won Grammys, she won awards for what she did, and it was very short-lived overall because she died at 27. But she marched to her own drummer, definitely, as an individual, and didn't, or I should say, they weren't in tune with that in a way that was really helpful to her. So she was doing drugs, in and out of rehab, died as a result of alcohol poisoning, and while she had been sober for quite a number of months. So there's a lot going on in the chart, but the most telling thing, I should say, is that she had the individual channels, which really had her, like Lady Gaga, who has all individual channels as well, or Madonna, or people like that who are, in the public realm, but seen as individuals and wanting to really make sure that people understand and see their individuality. So with all the talent that she had, it's a shame, that she died at such a young age, but she lived her life the way she wanted to live it. She was an example to lots and lots of singers who came after her. She was definitely while not necessarily a mentor, but she was a role model for a number of them, and a warning in a way as well, that it's very easy to get wrapped up in the drugs and alcohol when you're in the public eye so much and not having any privacy. Can you imagine, as an individual like she was, not having any privacy because the paparazzi were after her so much day and night? Not a life that was comfortable for her. So hope you have positive week. or an optimistic week, that you can turn the switch on and off as you'd like, and use that energy of the throat and the emotional solar plexus in a way that suits you, right? That energy will be out there. You may feel it, you may not, but use it in a way that supports your goals and intentions, and use it so that it supports your goals and intentions. Have a great week. See you soon.